Our next focus is going to be with the final gather, the FG. We're going to go up to our render setup window, F9 on the keyboard, and we'll go to our final gather rollout. We've got it turned off right now. We're going to go ahead and enable that. We could also enable it down here if we wanted to. This one's simply going to be the default settings. What we want to do is we're just going to leave it at, let's say for instance in here, if we take it to the draft, the initial FG point density, we want this at about 1. We want a nice detail point there. The raise per final gather point, we're at about 50. Because we're also using the global illumination with this, we don't have to go up to something around 200 or 500. We can keep this down low. So we could go between the 120, 150 range, should work fine for our scene. So I'm going to go ahead and go about 140. The interpolate over number of final gather points is set at 30. If we want to manually work this value over, we can go down to our final gather point interpolation. Again, this is one of the older ways to do it. This is, again, Max taking control of it, gives us a number value that we can work with. Just because this works well with the scene, we're going to go ahead and go down here. We're going to take it off of the radian pixels, and we want the radius in world units. So we've got it at our units here. We're going to select on our radius and our minimum radius. And if you recall, what we're going to do is simply look for the diameter across our scene and take 10% of it. So we're going to do measure distance. We're just going to go from one corner to the other corner. Check down here, and we've got a distance about 171. So we can go inside here, and we're actually going to take our radius. We'll put it at about 16. And then our min radius is 10% of our main radius, so we're looking at about 1.6. There we go. So it's going to set that value up for us, and if you notice that becomes grayed out, and it's going to be using this set of parameters for it. With the diffuse bounce, we really don't need this to bounce around inside the scene. We don't have to worry about the weighting on it. If we were using final gather as more of the final render, then we're going to want to bounce the light around a little bit more if you're trying to brighten up the scene and push the color around the scene. Below that, we've got our advanced options, and our standard is going to work high. If we get noise inside the scene or little light spots, bright white spots here and there, then we can use that noise filtering to clean some of that up. Okay, that's going to do it for our final gather setup. We look pretty good. You'll notice that we have that custom option here because we have changed up some of these values. They're not set to that preset option, so it's going to give you that custom right in there. Okay, with the final gather turned on, global illumination turned on, and the lights set up in the scene, let's go back to our render frame window. Let's just make a clone of this render with just the GI, and that way we can make a nice little comparison when we render it out. So let's go ahead and render this one out, and when it's done, we'll have a nice little final gather and global illumination comparison. Okay, we've got the final gather rendered out, and we can see a really nice comparison back and forth where we're just cleaning up some of those little ugly shadow lines here and there. We're actually getting some nice definition underneath here in comparison over here where it's really light in here. We're getting that nice darker shadow in there. It's just that detail in the shadow that we're really looking to pull out. Along here with the blinds, we're pulling that shadow detail out in quality a lot more. The corners are tightening up better up in here. It's not so fuzzy. So overall, we're getting a really nice effect. What we want to do now, since we've got the global illumination, we've got the final gather turned on together, they look really well together. We want to go back in and we want to adjust the settings a little bit more so that we can get a higher precision out of them. So like with the image precision, let's go up to about a medium precision on here. On the default shadows, we could turn that one up. We'll take it up to a high quality 2x. With our refractions and reflections, the default 1 and 1 is going to be fine. And the other one that we want to look at